Greetings, Berkshire County, and thank you for joining us on iBerkshiresTV. Jeff Snoonian here. COVID-19 has screwed everything up, not the least of which has been just municipalities getting business done. Town halls were closed. Just collecting taxes was more difficult. Voting was a little more difficult. And all the townspeople have done the best they can. We're now coming up to town meeting season. Town meeting season is usually sometimes in May and June. We saw a local town, Lanesboro, do it in May, I believe. Williamstown just held their town meeting outdoors. We see towns getting very inventive in how they go through this. And Cheshire will be having theirs next Tuesday, which I believe is what's the date? I'm joined today by Michelle Francesconi, the chairperson of the Select Board in Cheshire, and also we'll hear from Ed St. John, the town administrator. Michelle, why don't we go to you first? First of all, thank you both for joining us. And run through the logistics when people show up at town meeting. What's the best way to make it easy on everybody to make this go as smooth as possible? And also, you have a change of venue.
Yeah, and thank you, Jeff, for having us on. There have been a lot of changes this year, and our annual town meeting prior to the COVID shutdown, we had already made the decision to shift the venue to Hoosick Valley High School. Originally, we were planning on utilizing the auditorium for technological reasons and for the more comfortable seating, and shift it away from Cheshire Elementary School, where it has been historically held. And, obviously, like you said, all of the municipalities are all, trying to navigate around the restrictions and what we feel is safe for our community members. And, after, conversations with the town clerk, we decided to shift the venue once again from the auditorium. We shifted it to the gymnasium at Hoosick Valley High School. So it provided us with the opportunity, and you'll see in a few minutes, Ed is actually at the gymnasium at Hoosick Valley High School right now, and he'll, give an overview of the space and how we set it up. But the gymnasium provides us with greater opportunity to socially distance a large number of people. We feel confident that, we've provided ample opportunity for people to attend, but also have a safe environment. So in terms of accessing the meeting, so the gymnasium entrance is on the north side of the building, on the Adams side of the building. There's a parking lot there, a large parking lot. There are handicap parking spaces, and the entrance into the meeting will be through the gymnasium hallway where the pool used to be located. I know some people kind of reference that area, that entrance with the former pool. So that's the entrance you'll use. And once you enter the space, so there'll be socially distanced markers outside for those waiting in line to attend. And then in the hallway, all the way down the hallway to the high school gym entrance, so the large gymnasium. Now that there's two gymnasiums, we will be in the larger gym. And there'll be socially distanced markers in the hallway to distance yourself from others that are waiting in line to check into the meeting. And we've allowed an hour window instead of a half an hour. So typically the meeting, we would have a half an hour for check-in, and then the meeting would begin. So from 5:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. will be the check-in time. At 6:30, the meeting will start. So that's actually a half an hour earlier than we have historically had the meeting. And it'll allow us to wrap up the night a little bit sooner and give us more opportunity to kind of explain the budget process and what we're presenting to the townspeople at the beginning of the night. So as everyone proceeds into the gymnasium, there'll be two check-in tables for alphabetical check-in. And so those stations, you'll proceed past those stations and into the gymnasium, where there'll be contact tracing information required at the door. And then we'll have one of the police officers from town there taking the contact information. And then the other police officers will help assist the people in seating. We've socially distanced seating. There's either double or single seating arrangement opportunities for everybody. If you come with somebody else that's part of your household, you'll be permitted to sit in a double seat area, or if you're single and you're sitting by yourself, we'll have opportunities for that. We're providing additional overflow seating in the bleachers, but we won't use that unless we actually fill the floor. And then, if you want to jump over to Ed and see, he can give a visual representation of what I'm talking about, which might help.
We're gonna cut over to Ed St. John right now up at the beautiful Hoosick Valley Middle
and high school.
Middle and high school now. And it should be, I would think it's going to be a fairly well-attended town meeting because there is a Proposition 2.5 override on the ballot. Cheshire has been modernizing. Cheshire has been doing a lot of great things. There are a lot of great things happening in Cheshire right now. There are many reasons that there will be a Prop 2.5 override asked for. Ed, why don't you go into a few of those? The budget process was, I don't know about difficult this year, but it was certainly well studied this year.
Oh, it certainly was. And thank you as well, Jeff, for having us on. We really appreciate the opportunity to be able to, chat with you about this and tell people what we have going on. Before we kind of dive really into the budget itself, one of the things that I'd like to point out too is, even through all the pandemic and everything that we went through this spring, we did have a very productive year. We were designated this spring as a green community. And with that came a $134,000 or so designation grant. So that's going to help us modernize and make more energy efficient upgrades to our buildings and hopefully reduce the overall energy consumption and cost of all of that as well. We received a number of other grants as well through the AARP for $10,000, the Berkshire Taconic Fund and the Barrett Fund, the Fire Department. We've had funding sources through the CARES Act program, and we've also applied for a number of other grants. So we've been very busy with all of that. We'll, I think, be able to have an announcement soon regarding the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program. We're applied to be in the planning stages of that program. So we can't say anything yet, but hopefully soon we'll be able to say something. And we also applied for a $1 million grant to address a resurfacing project along 116. So that's through Mass Works, or formerly the STREP program. So we've been very busy, very active on that. And then so we kind of looked at where then to start next year's budget. And a lot of that comes in through looking at where we are, financially in a position with our levy limit. That's always, one of the, I guess, biggest drivers of how a town can budget. So we essentially started the year $131,000 under our levy limit. So it wasn't a huge amount of room. And as always, you have costs that are really beyond your control, so to speak, through the town. So what we did was we took a look at, well, what are these costs and what makes up the increase that we're looking at? And, as I said, we had about $130,000 in excess capacity. Education alone accounted for $238,000 of that increase. And that's through, certainly no fault of the schools. I think, especially the Hoosick Valley Regional School District did a good job this year of really looking at its program and looking through its budget and tightening the ways that it budgets itself and makes it more, I would say, fiscally responsible in the years moving forward. And that's one of the comments that we heard throughout the presentations. Northern Berkshire Vocational, McCann, went up by approximately $71,000, and we have an out-of-town placement that we have to provide for as well. So altogether of that increase. So essentially we're looking at in total about a $389,000 increase. And during our budget presentations, we pulled out numbers that really accounted for $388 of the $389,000 that go into it. So it's not many items that we're dealing with. So, beyond education, retirement costs are going up. The Berkshire County Retirement System, of which we're a member, is aggressively going after their funding model, if you will, so that they're fully funded in just a few years. Our medic employer share has gone up a little bit. And we're also aggressively, and this is, one of the things that we talked about in our meetings, is our OPEB funding, other post-employment benefits that we're required by law to create a fund for. So we just started that a few years ago, but at the time we're only spending $2,000 a year to fund that. So we're kind of seeing that we're a little bit behind on that. So we're taking an aggressive stance on that, and that increased by $18,000. So veterans benefits increased by we're budgeting to increase by $20,000 because we found out this year that we under budgeted that amount. So, certainly a lot of costs that are coming up. And then lastly, actually, before I go into that, we have highway engineering. Our overall highway budget actually is only increasing by approximately $5,000. But what we're doing this year is creating or putting more money into the engineering or design services account so that we can make more projects shovel ready and grant ready when the time comes. One of those projects being the Complete Streets program. So if we had more of a design, more of a plan, and more of a cost estimate, we'll know exactly what we need to go for, and then we can make that shovel ready. So, and then the other costs are personnel costs, and that's increasing by $90,000. But the really interesting thing that goes along with that is we're adding more, basically 2 more personnel positions to increase the level of services to our town. We have been very aggressive in our highway department through the past year. And one of those changes was moving an individual from basically splitting his time with custodial duties and then transfer station duties, and making him more effective throughout the year to other tasks such as grass cutting, mowing. In the winter, he'll be very active as well. So we also shifted that position out and then increased the hours in response to requests from residents in town who wanted more access to the transfer station. So we're increasing access to the transfer station, and obviously with that comes personnel costs. So really, of that $90,000 in increases, about $30,000 or so are essentially new positions to just fundamentally provide better services for residents.
This isn't a tax increase to keep up with, just to keep the pace. Services are increasing in Cheshire, and it's almost, I get the impression, and you can tell me if I'm right or wrong, that this is sort of, I mean, you guys have really taken about probably 4 or 5 years worth of stuff that maybe not necessarily should have been happening along the way, but in this whole modernization process, and say, let's do this 1 year and sort of maybe take one on the chin for 1 year and try to sell this and try to get people behind it. You're doing it this year where it could have been dribs and drabs over the past 4 or 5 years.
It really could have been drips and jabs over the past few years, but also too, we are just in a really unique position. Even if the town increased nothing, over its years, theoretically, we're in an override position as it was. One of the questions that had come up is, can we use more free cash to offset those increases? And, throughout, not history, but throughout, modern history, I suppose, you have really cautions from the Department of Revenue, from independent audits, that caution against using your free cash to artificially kind of keep down the tax rate, so that if you're going to grow, it should be kind of more organic, if you will, and more sustained than just using free cash. We were, extraordinarily lucky this year. We had almost $800,000 certified in free cash from last year. That doesn't happen all the time at all. And especially for a community like ours, we're usually around the $400,000 to $450,000 range. So, one of the reasons for that was because of the school budget last year overassessed us. So we received basically a rebate last year. So that was, expenses that we didn't have to really pay for. So that kind of went into it. We had, other accounting mechanisms that came off of the books. So that led us to, a higher number of free cash. But what we're looking to do with that this year, again, is to be sustainable. I mean, this whole budget process has been one, both on the state level and the local level, has been one about, creating sustainability and making sure that we're going to be okay in the future. And what we're planning to do with a large chunk of our free cash is take out what we have put back what we've taken out in our special town meeting, but also inject more so that should, revenues come in, should we receive a decrease in state aid or local revenues, we'll be able to absorb that through our stabilization fund, which, by all accounts is our rainy day fund. So, in the event that it pours, we'll be okay.
If you're a Cheshire resident, certainly there's a ton of stuff to look at on the Town of Cheshire website. And Michelle, we'll finish with you. Take 60 seconds. What would you like the message to be at town meeting? When everybody's sitting there, it's an open town meeting. What are you going to try to be come across? What's the message you want citizens to take from town meeting should everything get passed?
We've been listening. Thanks, Jeff. I mean, the Board of Selectmen has really been actively trying to, listen to the citizens, listen to what the needs of the taxpayers are and what have they been asking for years, and try to address those needs. And like Ed said, we were blessed with a larger than average amount of free cash to utilize. And, while we want to keep the tax rate, as low as possible, we want to save for the future, which is and protect the town in the event that unforeseen circumstances, such as the after effects of the COVID shutdown, impact our community finances. So put money into stabilization, utilize the free cash to purchase equipment that we need to improve, sidewalk maintenance in the wintertime in terms of a tractor that can sand and do, sand and salt the sidewalks. And we have personnel now with the shift in personnel to actually operate that equipment during a snowstorm so we can keep the town, a walkable community during the winter time, which is important. Another position that Ed didn't talk on, but is, additional food service, kitchen help at the community center for the senior citizens and the meal program that's been, expanding at an exponential rate over the past year. And we're excited to be able to continue building on that program. So we're really in, the increased hours of the transfer station. So we're listening, we're planning, we're checking off boxes, and we're trying to carefully create a program that will make us more sustainable and successful in the future.
And just as a final step, give the time, place of town meeting, time, date, place.
So 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. Check in on Tuesday, September 15th at the Hoosick Valley Middle and High School gymnasium entrance on the north side of the building. And then 6:30 p.m. will be the official start of the town meeting, and all of the information regarding the meeting, the warrant, the budget is all available on our website at cheshire-ma.net.
I can't thank you both enough, and I certainly wish you luck on Tuesday. And if you're a Cheshire resident and you happen to see the senior center staff or the highway department staff, they are the unsung heroes, quite frankly, because Bob Navin has been, I think, a great hire, and of course Carol and everybody at the senior center. Swing by when it opens, our community center, excuse me.
Yes.
They both do incredible work, and their staff, and there are great things happening there.
Absolutely. And Jeff, maybe if Ed's able to, maybe he can swing his camera around for a quick look of, so people can get a sense of what the audit or the gymnasium looks like before the town meeting and what to expect. And Ed, are you able to do that?
Absolutely. So, hopefully the camera will pick this up. So we have everything set out in a spaced out, socially distant way. We have 2 check-in tables over, I think over there. Which one am I looking at? Sorry about that. I'm backwards here. So we have the basically north entrance to the gym. You'll be able to check in in 2 spots, and then be able to find a seat, and we'll kind of go for there. So,
Michelle, Ed, thank you very much, and good luck Tuesday. And stay tuned to iBerkshiresTV and iBerkshires.com for all your Berkshire County news. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Jeff.